Welcome to Easy English, your go-to channel for improving your English and life.
Hello and welcome back to the deep dive.
Hi there.
So we got a lot of requests, a lot of notes and articles sent over by you, asking us to really dig into this world of short videos.
Yeah, the quick hit content that seems to be everywhere now.
Exactly. And the potential impact it's having.
Yeah.
So we've gone through all that material you shared, the research, the personal stories, your notes. And our goal today is really to pull out the key themes, the sort of surprising findings, maybe even some warnings that came up again and again in those sources.
Right, to get a handle on what's actually happening beneath the surface of, that endless scroll.
Because it seems like it's more than just entertainment. The materials certainly suggest that.
Oh, absolutely. The sources point towards some pretty profound and often kind of hidden costs linked to how we consume this stuff.
So we'll explore what it actually is, how it might be changing our brains, our attention spans.
And maybe what we're losing without even realizing it.
Okay, so let's start right there. Based on the materials you sent, what is short-form content? What are we actually defining here?
Well, the sources are pretty consistent. It's basically any digital stuff, mostly video, that's built for really fast, almost instant watching.
Right, like the videos on TikTok, Instagram Reels.
Exactly. YouTube Shorts, those little clips on Facebook, even X now. It's that constant stream.
Gotcha. Quick hits.
Yeah. And the sources also mention it's not just where you see it, but the style of it too.
How so?
It's usually highly edited, really fast-paced, sometimes sped up, content that's basically boiled down to the most stimulating bits.
To grab you quick.
Precisely. Speed, catchiness, and the fact that it's effortless to just swipe or click away the second you feel even a tiny bit bored. Which, let's be honest, is often just seconds.
Yeah. On the surface, it seems so simple. Just little bites of entertainment.
Seems totally harmless, right?
Yeah, just a little break in the day.
Yeah.
But the research you shared paints a different picture. It suggests it's doing more. One of the stories in your notes really jumped out at me, the one about Adam. Could you tell us a bit about his experience? How did that illustrate this whole shift?
Yeah, Adam's story. It really highlights a pattern seen across a lot of the material. So, Adam, just a few years back, was someone who genuinely loved, deep learning.
Oh, I.
The notes described him spending hours lost in books, really getting into long articles, watching full documentaries. He'd read stuff like Carl Sagan, trying to grasp big ideas, or study Warren Buffett's strategies for hours.
So really focused, patient learning.
Exactly. Building knowledge carefully, layer by layer. But then this short video stuff started creeping in.
How did that start?
Really subtly, according to the notes. A funny clip shared by a friend, maybe a quick life hack video. It didn't seem like a big deal. Just, light stuff mixed in with his usual online time.
But the material framed it as a kind of gradual takeover.
That's exactly how it was put. It wasn't like flipping a switch. It started small, but the way these platforms work, that endless feed, the autoplay function, it creates this really powerful pull.
Right.
His phone basically turned into this nonstop source of tiny, immediate rewards. A quick laugh here, a surprise there, a fleeting bit of inspiration.
Just one after another.
Yeah, in this infinite loop. And that promise of, just one more video, it never ends, does it? Because there's always another one ready, instantly.
Always. The scroll just keeps going.
Right. And the really concerning thing highlighted in the sources is how that pattern, repeated day after day, week after week, started to quietly, change Adam's whole relationship with information and with his own attention.
Okay, let's get into that. This is where the research you sent talks about the how. It's not just a different way to spend time, it's actually altering how our minds work. What were the first signs the sources mentioned seeing in people like Adam?
Well, several things came up consistently in the different articles and notes. The big one was this growing difficulty engaging with anything that needed sustained focus.
Like what?
Like, Adam found he just couldn't finish a book anymore. He'd read maybe a page or two and then feel this almost physical restlessness, an urge to check his phone, get that next little hit of something new.
Wow.
Even sitting through a movie without checking his phone or having a long, deep conversation started feeling really hard. His mind would just drift, needing that faster, constant input.
It sounds like his brain literally got impatient.
That's a really good way to describe it. The sources talk about the brain getting used to needing things faster, louder, more intense visually just to stay engaged.
Right.
Anything less starts to feel, slow, boring even. And it wasn't just about watching stuff. It bled into other things.
Like projects.
Yeah. He'd get excited about starting something new, learn a language, maybe try writing, get into a consistent workout routine, but he'd lose steam really fast if he didn't see results immediately, just like the content he was consuming.
So that expectation of instant payoff from the videos translates to expecting instant payoff from real effort.
Exactly. The material draws a direct line there.
So the core danger here, according to the research you shared, isn't just about wasting time online. It's that this content is literally changing how we think, how we focus.
Precisely. It seems to be retraining our cognitive habits from the ground up.
Okay, let's dig into that a bit more. The sources talked about brain chemistry, right? Dopamine. How does that play into it?
Yeah, the dopamine angle is huge in the materials. Dopamine is, that key chemical in our brain's reward system. It gets released when we feel pleasure or achieve something, basically motivating us to do that thing again.
Okay.
So when you watch a short video that makes you laugh or surprises you or feels informative, you get a little burst of dopamine. Feels good.
And these platforms are basically designed to just keep triggering those little bursts.
That's exactly what the research highlights. They're engineered for frequent, unpredictable, effortless dopamine hits. Every swipe is like pulling a slot machine lever. You don't know what you'll get next. Maybe something amazing, maybe something dumb.
Right.
That uncertainty, that variable reward, is incredibly powerful at keeping you hooked. But the key point the sources make is that this whole system sort of hijacks our natural dopamine pathway.
Hijacks it how?
It gives you the feeling of reward or learning or accomplishment, but without the actual effort or achievement that usually earns that feeling.
Okay. Like watching a 30-second video summarizing 10 life lessons.
Perfect example.
You feel like you learned something, but you didn't do the hard work of, actually reading the book or living the experience.
Exactly. You get that little mental check mark that I learned something feeling, but none of the real cognitive effort went into it.
Yeah.
Or you see a super fast, get-rich-quick video, instant visual of success, dopamine hit, but you didn't take any risk or put in any work.
So it creates this illusion of progress just by watching stuff.
Yes. That's a key takeaway from the sources.
Okay, so if we keep getting these easy, instant dopamine hits from scrolling, what does that do to our motivation for things that are actually, difficult, things that take time?
That's the crux of the problem, according to the material. The more your brain gets accustomed to these super easy, super fast rewards, the less appealing and less motivating the real-life stuff becomes.
Because the payoff isn't instant.
Right. Finishing a tough book, working towards a goal that's months or years away, mastering a skill, even just having a really deep, nuanced conversation. These things require patience, effort, delayed gratification. They just don't feel like rewarding chemically compared to the instant buzz from the phone.
So the brain starts to prefer the easy hits.
Yeah, it takes the path of least resistance, chemically speaking.
And this isn't just happening to a few individuals, right? The sources you shared suggested this is a much bigger trend.
Oh, definitely. The material talks about what many are calling an attention crisis, and you see signs of it everywhere in the studies you sent over. People reporting more difficulty focusing, teachers seeing it in students used to faster pacing, even in workplaces. That ability to do deep work, really concentrate without interruption seems to be getting harder for a lot of folks.
And you pulled out that statistic
Yeah.
about attention spans. That was pretty stark.
Yeah, one summary mentions studies suggesting the average human attention span might have dropped significantly from around 12 seconds down to maybe 8 seconds or so recently.
8 seconds.
And they often compare it potentially shorter than the attention span of a goldfish.
Shorter than a goldfish. Wow, that really lands. Why is this happening on such a wide scale?
Well, the research keeps pointing back to the training effect. Our brains are incredibly adaptable, right? So when we constantly feed them this diet of rapid-fire stimuli, instant rewards, constant switching, they adapt. They learn to expect that.
So they get bored easily with anything slower.
Exactly. Anything that doesn't provide that immediate jolt, that quick entertainment, that fast answer, the brain gets trained for impatience.
And that makes complex thinking really difficult.
It does. There's less patience for slow, deliberate thought. And one of the most interesting points in your materials was about losing the ability to just tolerate boredom.
Why is boredom important? It sounds like something we'd want to avoid.
Well, the notes and articles really emphasize this, that quiet space when your mind isn't being constantly fed external stuff, that's often where the magic happens.
How so?
It's where your mind gets to wander freely, make unexpected connections, just think without direction. That's fertile ground for creativity, for new ideas.
And if every spare second, every moment of waiting is filled with scrolling.
Then we lose that space entirely. We don't give our minds that chance to just drift and explore internally. The sources argue that a mind that's always busy being stimulated from the outside might struggle to generate truly original thought in the same way.
Okay, but what about the argument that, some of this short content is educational, you can learn quick facts, see different perspectives. Did the material address that?
It did, yeah, and it's an important point. It acknowledges that, sure, you can pick up useful little snippets, quick tips from some videos. Some creators are really good at being concise.
Right.
But the material really stressed the difference between just collecting isolated bits of information, like collecting dots, and achieving actual understanding or wisdom. That comes from connecting the dots.
And you can't really connect the dots in 15 or 30 seconds.
Not usually, no. Real learning, deep understanding, being able to apply knowledge that needs context. It needs repetition, reflection, maybe wrestling with the ideas, talking about them. Short formats just aren't built for that kind of depth.
Right. Like Adam, again, you might watch tons of clips on a topic.
Yeah, maybe psychology or finance.
But the note said he still struggled to really explain the core ideas or actually change his habits based on them.
Exactly. He had the fragments, the dots, but not the deeper structure, the connections needed to truly understand or use the information effectively.
One of the articles used an analogy, something about candy.
Yeah, that was a good one. It's like eating handfuls of candy and calling it a proper meal.
Okay.
It feels good in the moment, gives you a quick rush, but it lacks real substance. It doesn't actually nourish your understanding.
Makes sense. Now, beyond the thinking and attention side, what about our emotions? How does this content style affect how we feel, according to the material?
That's another really big area the sources covered. Because short-form content needs to grab you instantly, it often relies on triggering strong, sometimes extreme emotions.
Like what kind of emotions?
Surprise, fear, anger, shock, envy. These are really effective at stopping the scroll. So the algorithms tend to favor content that pushes those buttons.
So the stuff that goes viral is often designed to provoke a strong reaction.
Very often, yes. You see those perfectly filtered bodies or impossibly luxurious lifestyles designed to make you feel envious, or clips taken out of context to maximize outrage or conflict designed to make you angry or scared, or those instant success stories that make your own slow progress feel inadequate.
Right. And being constantly exposed to that level of intensity or that curated, often fake, perfection, what does that do over time?
The research links it pretty strongly to increases in anxiety, insecurity, and that constant feeling of comparison. You're just bombarded with these idealized or dramatized versions of reality.
Even if you kind of know it's not real.
Yeah, even if you intellectually know it's filtered or staged, the constant visual stream bypasses that rational part sometimes and hits you emotionally. The sources suggest it really fuels that feeling of, I'm not good enough, I'm falling behind, without people always realizing the content itself is feeding those feelings.
Let's circle back to that idea of losing boredom and imagination.
Yeah.
You mentioned it earlier, but how did the material frame that loss more broadly?
It painted a really powerful contrast, I thought. Thinking back to maybe childhood or just times before smartphones were glued to our hands, those moments of just having nothing specific to do.
Waiting for the bus, staring out the car window.
Exactly. Those quiet moments. The material points out that's when your mind was free. Free to wander, daydream, make up stories, mull things over.
That undirected thinking time.
Yes. That space was where imagination grew, where you made internal connections, where ideas could just bubble up because your mind wasn't being constantly filled from the outside.
And now, the moment there's a pause.
The impulse is automatic for so many people. Reach for the phone, fill the gap, start scrolling.
Constantly feeding the brain.
Right. And the concern raised in the material is that by basically eliminating those pockets of quiet, undirected thought, we might be chipping away at our capacity for genuine internal creativity, deep reflection, the kind of thinking that needs space to breathe.
A mind that never wanders might not discover new paths.
Something like that, yeah.
Okay, so if we step back and look at the big picture, what are the main costs? What are we potentially losing overall from this constant diet of short-form content, according to the sources you reviewed?
The material suggests the costs add up and are interconnected. First, there's patience. Just the ability to stick with things that take time, that seems to erode. Then depth. Replacing real understanding with just knowing a lot of surface-level facts. Wisdom gets traded for trivia, almost.
Right.
creativity suffers.
Yeah.
Our minds are kept busy consuming, but they get less practice actually building things, generating new ideas from within. Discipline also takes a hit. Starting things feels easy, but finishing hard things becomes harder when that instant reward isn't there.
Or maybe control.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah.
Feeling like you're choosing what to watch, but actually being subtly guided, pulled along by algorithms designed purely to maximize your screen time, losing agency over your own attention.
And underlying all that is the time itself. Just hours vanishing.
Hours and hours, yeah. Irretrievable time. But the sources really emphasize it's also the loss of these mental skills. Focus, patience, deep thinking, imagination. That's the truly significant hidden cost. We might be losing parts of ourselves, in a way.
That sounds pretty bleak. Did the material offer any sense of, well, what to do? Do things like books or longer documentaries still hold value?
Oh, absolutely. The sources were very clear on that. They argue that traditional, longer formats might be more important than ever now.
Why is that?
Because some ideas, some stories, some complex issues, some personal transformations, they simply need time and space to unfold. You can't capture real depth or nuance in 60 seconds. Books, long articles, deep dive podcasts, documentaries, they allow for that sustained engagement.
So engaging with them is more than just getting information.
Exactly. The material frames it as a valuable act in itself. It's like exercise for your brain.
Hosts.
Reading a book forces you to focus, to follow a narrative or argument over time. Watching a complex documentary requires you to sit with ambiguity, absorb nuance. It trains your attention span, builds mental endurance, challenges you to think more deeply, actively pushing back against the habits trained by the quick-hit content. It's like a mental workout.
Going back to Adam's story in your notes,
Yeah.
did he manage to kind of push back? Did he make changes?
Yes, thankfully the notes included a positive turn. He apparently had this moment after hours of scrolling where he just felt totally empty and drained.
A wake-up call.
Kind of, yeah. That feeling, combined with reading some research similar to what you sent over, made him decide to try and take back some control.
What did he actually do? What steps did the notes mention?
It sounded like he started with some concrete actions, though they weren't easy. He deleted the apps that were his biggest time wasters, set really strict timers on the ones he kept. He made a point of picking up a physical book, something he hadn't finished in ages, and just committed to reading a little bit each day, even just a few pages. He started leaving his phone at home when he went for walks, tried journaling for a few minutes before bed instead of scrolling.
That must have been tough, fighting that urge for stimulation.
The notes said it was definitely hard. Lots of moments of feeling really bored, restless, that itch to just grab the phone. But by sticking with it, making those different choices consistently, even small ones, he started to notice a change.
What kind of change?
His mind started to feel quieter, less scattered. His thoughts felt deeper. He actually had more energy and motivation for things that required effort. He started creating again, instead of just consuming.
So the message from his story and the research overall seems to be less about total elimination and more about regaining control, being intentional.
Exactly. It's not about saying all short videos are bad and you can never watch them again. That's probably unrealistic for most people. It's about understanding how powerfully they affect us and then consciously choosing how, when, and how much we engage instead of just letting the algorithms dictate our time and attention.
Right. Which brings us to a really key point from all the material you shared. The problem isn't that short-form content exists.
No, not inherently. Like we said, some of it's great, creative, funny, informative. The material often used the analogy of sugar.
Ah, okay.
A little bit is fine, maybe even enjoyable. But when it becomes the main thing you consume, when it dominates your mental diet, that's when the negative health effects, the mental health effects, in this case, really start to show up.
So the real power lies with us, with our awareness and choices.
Precisely. The sources really encourage asking yourself those tough questions. Am I actually learning something valuable here? Or am I just numbly scrolling? Am I spending most of my time consuming things, or am I still making space to create, to think my own thoughts, to build things in the real world? Am I directing my attention intentionally, or am I just reacting to whatever notification or video pops up next?
Because the real danger isn't the videos themselves.
It's what happens when they crowd everything else out. When they chip away at our patience, our focus, our ability to think deeply and be creative, when they leave us feeling anxious and comparing ourselves to things that aren't even real.
It's so easy to get swept away by it all, but the insights from the material really drive home that final thought. Don't let 15 seconds steal your future.
Well put. Thanks for sharing all those resources and letting us dive into this. It's definitely food for thought.
Absolutely. We hope this discussion gives everyone listening a bit more clarity and maybe sparks some reflection on your own habits. There's always more to explore, and we'll be back soon to dig into another topic with you.